Let's move on to a next topic regarding your New York Jets, John. The offensive line has been a bit of a concern in training camp as Aaron Rodgers, who has been happy-go-lucky, Aaron, throughout training camp and throughout the offseason. The one area he hasn't been, and he's been, I guess, cautiously optimistic, is whether or not the Jets can get their offensive line right. And obviously we know, as I've talked about before on my show, Carving It Up, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on the grid, is that offensive lines, they're like air conditioning systems. Like, you only notice them when they're not working. And Aaron's had a lot of great offensive lines in Green Bay, but we'll see how it plays out in the long run with the Indianapolis Colts. I'll start with the former Jets fan, Barry Grant Jr., and a big Aaron Rodgers fan in the building. Do you think this comes back to bite the Jets and potentially hurts their Super Bowl chances?
I think it's a wait-and-see type of situation, Bryson, because, their offensive line is not tested right now. They're going to get tested in the first 2 weeks of the season with the Bills and the Cowboys. Those are two teams that have great pass rushes. They're going to find out very, very quickly if that offensive line is good enough or if they're going to need to make changes. Jason Peters that came out, I think it was today recently, and said that, hey, listen, if they need help, I'll be able to be ready and ready to go and sign with them if need be. So if that's an option for them, he can definitely do a lot to help those young guys on that offensive line be professional, understand how to, I think he helped Dallas a great deal last year. So he was a good spot starter for them last year. So if that's an option for them, it's open, but it's pretty much a wait and see type of situation.
Yeah, and I think for the Jets, it's a question about whether or not they're able to, because Aaron Rodgers has historically throughout his career been a guy who gets the ball out of his hands quick. We talk about the great arm he has. He's never really historically, certainly in the past few years, even his MVP years, been a guy who just bombs away like Brett Favre was, just taking shots down the field constantly. So I think it's a fair point, and whether or not the offensive line will be as big of a concern as we might think. To John Rivera, you are the Jets fan in the house, the loyal Jets fan in the house, sticking with the guys in green. Do you think this potentially hurts the Jets in the long run to compete for a Super Bowl?
Hey, use the words from that bad man. You gotta relax. It's gonna be all right, man. It's the preseason, right? We got a few different new pieces in there, to work with. New system. It's new everything, like literally new everything. You gotta learn this stuff, you know what I mean? So, 2 preseason games in, I think we'll be all right. You just alluded to that Aaron gets the ball out of his hand fast. We got 2 prominent runners by Dalvin Cook. Like, you can hand the ball off. That can cover up some of your, offensive woes. And like I said, just like Aaron Rodgers said, just relax, man. It's early, and we'll get it together, man. Like I said, it's new everything. So, everything ain't going to click, in the first couple games. So we'll see, though. But, yeah, we'll be all right. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
That's interesting. You sound like Bob Marley. Every little thing. I don't want to get YouTube. I don't want to do
accents, bro. Don't do it.
Yeah, I know. They're going to take this show off of YouTube if I do that. Moving on to, it's a good point, though, John. Moving on to Devin, as a team, like, listen, I may be a Steelers fan, but I can give props where it's due. The Ravens have been a team that have had a great offensive line over the last few years, especially with Lamar. So you would know a thing or two about that. Do you think this hurts the Jets? Do you think this, whether it costs them division or maybe costs them a playoff game in the future? We know Aaron Rodgers' playoff struggles in the past. Do you think this hurts them when it comes to them contending for a Super Bowl?
A little bit, but I'm gonna go here on a limb and say that, like what John said, that Aaron Rodgers can get the ball in his hand quick. So that's one thing that the Jets really got in the plus factor for them, that Aaron Rodgers only hold the ball maybe 0.5 seconds, at a time. So that's a good thing. And most offensive lines break down at the 3 seconds. So he got that curve and hit him. He also got Dalvin Cook. Also be back there with him. Dalvin Cook is a home run hitter running back that, if he can catch the ball up the screen and he gets a wide open field, Dalvin Cook can take it home. So I feel like the Jets can escape some games. Like, their offensive line won't show up as much. But like Barry said, those first 2 weeks is going to be a test. And if they can get a test early in the beginning of the season, they can adjust throughout the rest of the season. So long as the Jets don't be like the Miami Dolphins, start off hot in the beginning of the season, and then once you get to December and January, once the weather starts changing, it gets a little cold, offensive line gets a little bit worn down, then I think that's where we'll start seeing the woes of the Jets offensive line.
You bring up an interesting point, because I think we're talking about the Jets offensive starters, and the whole Mekhi Becton issue has been a problem for him as well ever since he was drafted there. But we also forget the fact that their depth offensively in the offensive line, the Bills are dealing with the same problem, has been compromised as well due to injuries. So whether or not they can sustain that over the course of the long run is remains to be seen.